City. This is Charlie Rose.
Art Linson is here. For over 30 years, the writer-producer has brought together the best talents in movie making. Here's a look at some of his work.
When you get out there, do you ever fear for your life?
Well, Stu, I'll tell you, surfing's not a sport. It's a way of life, no hobby. It's a way of looking at that wave and saying, hey, bud, let's party.
What? They got the shipment. What? They got the whole shipment. I want that son of a dead. I want him dead. I want him dead. I'm dead. Did with the what, am I alone in this world? Did I ask you what you're trying to do? Did I ask you what you're trying to do? Please. I want you to get this where he breathes. I want you to find this Nancy boy Elliot Ness. I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground. I want to go to the middle of the night. I want to his ashes.
Every week, Tyler gave the rules that he and I decided.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out. The fight is over. Fourth rule, only 2 guys to a fight. Fifth rule, 1 fight at a time, fellas.
I don't know what you're doing. Remember Jimmy McElwain on the yard used to say, you want to be making moves on the street, have no attachments, allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat around the corner. Remember that?
For me, the sun rises and sets with her, man.
Linson has also written 2 books about his profession. The most recent is What Just Happened, Bitter Hollywood Tales from the Front Line. He has now adapted it for the screen. Here's the trailer for the film.
No, you're not listening. I'm driving on the 405 as we speak. I'm 5 minutes away. I'm driving right over the hill.
Hi, Daddy.
Morning, gorgeouses.
Mom wants to ask you something. She said it's okay for you to go in the house instead of using your cell phone.
That's good to know.
Okay, Ben, let's play by the rules.
I thought our last session went really well, didn't you?
We're running a little short on time.
Why can't we talk about it?
Next time.
I know the time is up, but we're paying enough money. We can't stay 2 more minutes.
Thank you very much. Ben, we've got a problem. Serious problem. Is he a final cut? I'll take the movie away from you and recut it myself.
He'll be fine. It's jet lag. I'll take care of it. It's okay. Talk to me.
You're not gonna believe it. He's fat.
Bruce Willis is overweight?
With a Grizzly Adams beard.
If that bastard doesn't shave and look like a leading man, we sue you for misrepresentation.
Oh, Sidney, come on. This is Bruce Willis we're talking about here.
You're his agent. He's got 4 days to shave, and that's it.
Tell him he's gonna get fired.
I don't want to. You're scared of him.
I'm scared of all of them. Audiences want to know it's you, Bruce.
What are you talking about? They're not going to recognize me, Ben? Oh, where'd Bruce go? Oh, look, there he is. I see him right there, the guy with the beard.
Yeah, well, why don't we start by giving your overblown stomach to the Red Cross?
Yeah?
I'm hurting.
You're hurting?
Is anyone else other than you sleeping in our old bed?
What?
I believe you're seeing my ex-wife. For God's sake, you're married.
I'm not happy. Is this a feeling that you're unfamiliar with?
I'm not just some silly girl in tight clothes. I went to Stanford.
That's a good school.
Hunter S. Thompson once said to me, the movie business is a cruel and shallow money trench.
You live
where thieves and pimps run free, and good men die like dogs. And then he added, there's also a negative side.
As we dig deeper and deeper, you're going to feel so good about being apart that you're never going to want to get back together.
Also joining me, Robert De Niro and director Barry Levinson. I'm pleased to have them here to talk about this project and about the industry they're in, making movies. Tell me about the book.
Well,
I mean, where does this come from? Because when you look at those movies that we just saw, was there a common denominator there?
No. When you see
De Niro,
when you see that, you go, oh, well, that's the good part of it. No, the book is really both books were actually designed to help people on the outside see what it feels like to be in this thing, to be in the movie business. And every once in a while you see that and you go, oh, okay, maybe it is worth it. You know, you see Bob do that thing, you go, oh, gosh, this is good. But actually the book was not designed to do that. It's to really say, hey, this is a cautionary tale. It's a town filled with envy and ambition and vanity that all of us have, and that's a rough mix. And so it can lead to
fear.
And bingo, that's what happens when you push those things together. So I mean, so the book was trying to say, hey, take a look at this. This is what it's like when you get out there, and then you figure it out. So that's how it started. It was never intended to be more than that, really.
Have you, over the years, changed your sort of outlook on this?
It's always been pretty much the same. I mean, a lot of money's at stake, a lot of people trying to take credit for work they don't do, and a lot of people getting blamed for stuff that had nothing to do with them. And so, but it's such a wonderful, glamorous thing to be involved in a great movie that people pay a big price for it.
When you saw this, when you read this, what did you say?
Well, I thought it made me laugh, the whole book. I mean,
Did it tell you anything you didn't know?
Well, no, I knowing Art as well as I do.
Knowing what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised, but it was very, very funny, and I thought, geez, it would be. What about making a movie out of it? So that's how it started, and I asked Art what he thought about.
And I said, there is no movie. This is like a sort of a series of tales, true tales of Hollywood, and Bob goes, and then he called me, it's funny, there's a movie, and suddenly it took me a while to understand the way, sort of even the way Bob would sort of explain it. Instead of telling you what the movie is, he sort of just nudged me into going, oh, I get what he sees. He sees the desperation from the guy that wrote this thing. That's what he meant. I never even bothered to notice that. I thought, so.
But wait a minute. He saw desperation. You saw what?
I didn't even know. I mean, I'm just telling. I'm sort of like letting people in on what's happening.
The experience.
And I think Bob saw it from another way. He's saying, no. Don't you see? This is pathetic.
Funny,
pathetic.
Pathetically funny.
Pathetically funny.
Painfully so.
Painfully, pathetically funny.
So therein the journey started, and I tried to put this into some sort of a film context, and that's how it started.
So how did you see it, Mr. Levinson?
Well, I got the screenplay. After Bob had talked to Art, and Art wrote it, and then I think you said to Art about sending it to me, and then that's when I got involved. Because I read it and I thought, this is terrific. And what I liked about it is that it wasn't a satire. It's not a satire of the business. I don't know if you
mean
can
like
satirize.
Robert Altman made?
Well, I don't know if you can satirize the business. It's like it's so crazy in its own way. But what I liked is there are very funny things in it, but it is what it is. And you're following the journey of this producer in a 2-week period, of quiet desperation, struggling to stay afloat, trying to keep, his personal life and his professional life together.
Well, these important questions that are posed early, like, should we be making a movie in which they show a dog being shot?
Mm-hmm. Well, something like that becomes such a big issue.
It becomes and an actor who won't work and whatever.
Yeah, but these issues are always about money, So it's like, Hollywood would shoot anything if that's what they would
shoot 10 dogs.
Oh my God! Line them up. They knock kennels off if it was going to make money. The horror is like, my God,
I thought this was art.
Yeah, no, this is, So no,
not art.
There's no
art. Is this not art?
Art for art's sake.
Art for art's sake.
You can shoot
bank account sake.
Yes.
People you can shoot. That can make money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody actually said, what parts did you have to exaggerate, and in this movie to make it, and I said every bit of it is true. I said we actually had to leave some stuff out because nobody'd believe it. It's like there's nothing here really that I, in some form, any of us have not witnessed. I mean, even if it's the John Turturro is the powerless agent who with a stomach disorder who's scared of his own clients.
Why not call me back after you talk to him? Let's do that.
Tell him he's going to get fired and sued for all the money in his piggy bank? I don't want to. You give him the bad news.
Dick, you're an agent. Delivering bad news is part of the job description.
I can't do it. The messenger gets killed. You know that. I can't. I've been working with him for 2 years. He's one of my most important clients, but he's very mercurial. He can snap at any time.
You're scared of him.
I'm not scared of him. I'm scared of all of them.
To me, that's the closest thing to way it really is out there. I mean, I've never met an agent that feels. I mean, the cliches of cigar-chomping, powerful people are simply nonsense. I mean,
people trying to prove multiple masters.
Well,
trying to
absolutely,
satisfy.
absolutely, and frankly, the power is kind of a little bit of a shell game. I mean, it's the apparency of power. Frankly, very few of them have any. I'm in that group, and and I understand what it means. And it's like so you know, most everybody's just slightly terrified.
So who has the power?
Well, you would say, and you know, the people who were writing checks have the power. But nowadays, you know, when I started, Lou Wasserman had power.
Exactly.
Now, by the time you get into somebody writing a check, he's working for so many people up, he may not have met the guys, you know, and so maybe it's God now.
Yeah, because of conglomerates and who owns it and Sony owns it.
Yes,
and all
it's so
whatever.
vertically integrated that the guys that have power now are so panicked, they just want to keep their jobs. If you're worried about keeping your job, I wouldn't call power, part of your sweatshirt. You're hanging in, and so for me, it always is not just about a producer hanging in, but frankly, directors, actors, executives, everybody in town is sort of trying to keep things like things are going real good, but you know.
When you saw this script and when you go back to him and you say this is a movie, it's funny, it's pathetically funny. Did you see yourself playing Ben, or did you see your role as doing something else?
Yeah, no, I thought of myself as Ben, I always thought of that. There was a time we talked about somehow maybe taking another thing, but that's the reason I wanted to do it. I thought it would be a lot of fun to.
And did you look at the script and say, Barry's the guy? This is my first recommendation to you, and why?
Well, Barry was very much, when we were in the talking stages of who would do it, Barry was always one of our first choice. You know, we figured that's the way to go, and that's what happened.
And you said, yes. I got Art, I got Bob. I mean, Barry's here.
I mean, in reading it right away, I mean, for all of the craziness of it, it was the character that fascinated me, because it is, real, and it's real in terms of today, because I mean what Art's saying is true. The concept of a producer really having power, that doesn't really exist in the way it once did. Mm-hmm. So to see that you have all of the trappings of power, but you don't really have power, and so that I thought was an interesting, honest thing, that you can follow this character and not having to try to service it with jokes. This movie at times, we're not trying to be funny all the time. There are moments that are more dramatic and a lot of moments that are comedic. Yeah. And that was what was interesting.
We're going to see 2 clips at the beginning. When you're directing him, I mean, is it minimal? What is it that you want to share, Mom? I mean, both of you. I mean, you know his work. He knows your work. He knows what you're capable of. He knows what you bring to the table. You know what he brings to the table. Well, how does that work out?
Well, for me, Barry just is very easy with things, and he knows not to try to make something that's not there. For me, I had to find how I could play this part as best the way I could do it. Because sometimes I'd see Art do something and it would be very funny as timing, and I didn't want to have to go literally and try and match that. It would have been impossible, so I had to find my own way. Hopefully I got something decent out of it. And Barry's very supportive of that. That's as it should be.
And is it part of it finding a rhythm?
It's a rhythm, yes, it is. I mean, to me, there was a specific rhythm in the writing and in the timing, and absolutely, I felt There was, and his art's writing is precise,
right.
and.
But I can tell you an anecdote. I don't know if I ever told you this, Bob. But when I first was produced a movie that Bob was in, was The Untouchables,
right.
and when he first showed up on the set to do his first scene, it was the barbershop where he's laying in a chair and he's being shaved.
He's playing Al Capone.
And yeah, he's playing Al Capone. And De Palma, I remember, said, you know, because he did about, I don't know, I think the takes were way up there, you know, and I remember, and they all looked the same to me, you know, and I remember Brian said, where do you see it? Where do you see dailies? You'll see every single one is different. And it's like, and it was true. It was kind of, he brings this thing that I don't know, you know, we don't know how he does it. Maybe it's a magic trick and he's not going to tell, or maybe whatever it is. But it is that thing. And then suddenly you see the dailies up close, and it's a feeling, emotion, all different. And they look from a distance the same. It's pretty something. It's kind of great to witness.
That's the, I mean, the great part is you're not trying to find, you're not trying to get a performance. You know, you're not trying to get a credible, you know, moment. You're, in a sense, what you're doing is you're playing around within it. And you can look at takes, and Bob doesn't rely on one particular thing. I mean, in each take, there is something else going on. Now, you make the decision what you think is best to serve the scene. But there are different kinds of moments that are happening all the time. And that's the best way to work. And not many actors can step up to that.
Yeah. This is something I can look at you and know that this is not something you're altogether comfortable with. Is it? Is it because it's art and therefore, I mean, art, craft, or what? I mean, I can see.
You mean
it's sort of uncomfortable to talk about what you do.
Well, I'm uncomfortable because. They're saying nice things about me, which they don't really believe.
You don't believe they believe, or you don't believe?
Everybody's trying to be polite.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, let's get this right.
Let's get it right. The indignities that normal people in Hollywood suffer, which this movie's about, he doesn't even know about.
He's true.
He's Bob De Niro. It's like it's a different problem.
We don't do that.
It's true in the sense that like as a director. It's a different thing. You are thrown into it with the Lions. Barry knows from all the movies he's done, and Art knows as the producer. I as the actor don't get subjected to that because it doesn't do any good. He's the actor, so they leave him alone, or her, or whoever the leads are, whoever the people. It's not their problem.
They don't leave everybody alone.
They don't,
They leave him alone.
I think they do. Well, yeah, but I mean, so it is, and it's a very, very stressful, tough thing to direct a movie and produce it. If you're a real producer like Art is, and it's tough. It's tough. I know from my own experience doing 2 movies, you're under tremendous pressure, and so I always have great empathy for the director, and even. When I did The Good Shepherd, I felt that it helped me in preparation for this because I was humbled by what I had to go through as a director. It's a lot.
All right, take a look. Tell me about Bruce Willis. Who is the character he plays in this?
Who is it that he plays?
Yeah. We're going to see him in this scene.
You mean from the book?
Yes.
From the book, it's...
No, I mean his character in this film.
His character, he's just he's Bruce Willis.
Okay.
I mean, that's who he is. He's
All
Bruce
right. He's
Willis.
An actor playing Bruce Willis, playing
Bruce
this role.
Willis, who decided to have a beard and was a little overweight because he thought it was good for his character.
All right, roll tape. Here it is.
Hollywood producer my ass. I should have seen this mentality coming. Really. Should have seen it coming. Never a doubt. Never a doubt. Bruce!
Come on. You want to talk about integrity? Let's talk about...
Yeah, let's talk about integrity! Let's talk about some...
Okay, let's go. Let's talk about integrity.
That's a real scene that was a real experience
Yes,
somewhere in
my life,
deep recesses of your life.
I always like to see integrity get mixed up with money.
And sex. And sex.
Yes, and eating.
All right, this is another clip. Tell me about the relationship between Ben and his ex-wife, Kelly, played by...
Well, that was partially fictionalized.
Right.
But This is about one of those broken up marriages that
are not quite broken up.
They can't quite get over the fact that they aren't living together. And the producer actually, in this case, is still in love with some of his possessions that he had to give to the...
She has.
He can't quite get over it's not his anymore. So this is basically a scene where they're actually seeing somebody to help them learn to live apart gracefully.
Roll tape, here
I
it
think
is.
that's the scene.
I admit, I do love this bed, but only with you in it. Even if only for a moment, I'm just so grateful to be back here.
Really?
Truly.
I don't know, just all the lawyers and everything, Ben, it's just so, it's awkward, you know?
And all the money.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just been so long, I just feel like if I could do this, I feel so vulnerable and...
I know how you feel.
It's complicated, I don't feel just one way,
I
you know?
understand, I never feel just one way.
Really?
Truly. This could be important.
If you can only focus. If you could just focus.
Let's both hold on to that thought.
So what we want your audience to walk away from in this movie is a sense of the real experience of Hollywood. Beyond all that is glamorous and all that is a reflection of culture, there's also these very human experiences.
Yeah, I think it, from my point of view, everybody here may feel differently. I mean, I mean, it's obviously a humorous look at real people hanging by threads in Hollywood. But at the same time, there's a reality to it that I think everybody feels. I mean, if you're in politics, if you're in television, if you're a doctor at a hospital, you know, you still suffer from trying to work your way through the maze. In fact, if there's any dignity to this, it's about trying to keep going forward without giving up, even though the floor is real.
Because you have to remember what's good about it at all times.
Well, you do in the movie business. I mean, every once in a while when you see something great, then you kind of go, oh, you know, pitter-pat.
Is there anything about making a movie that's like opening a restaurant?
Well, I mean, it's similar. You have an opening. You have dress rehearsals. You have you don't have dress rehearsal for movies, but for plays. I mean, so.
Well, I think it's called previews.
Previews, yeah, previews, yeah. But you have the material already. You can reshoot, which is done a lot. Add stuff or add scenes and stuff, and you think after watching it and previewing it, you should do it. You know, so that there's a similarity.
Yeah, but is this a similarity? Because a movie is good does not necessarily mean it's going to be commercially successful, and because a restaurant makes good food does not necessarily mean there are all these elements that go into what makes one or not.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, it's. You'd like that it all goes together. Right. You'd think that it would logically, but sometimes it doesn't. You know?
In fact, oftentimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you can't define what it is.
No,
can you?
No,
you can't make it. You can't define it. You just have to follow your instincts and do what you think.
Well, you do what you do. You can't control the marketing or the lack of marketing or the wrong marketing
or
that
even
may take
people
place.
not responding. You know, it's not like Faulkner sold as many books as Jacqueline Suzanne. I mean, it's just the way of the world. Right. You have to do what you think is good and let the chips fall. You know, it's just that what this is trying to do is remind everybody that there's no grand power puppeteer. I mean, Harvey Weinstein's a very talented fellow, but he's not the meat in the cheeseburger. He's the mayonnaise, like the rest of us. That's the problem with it, is that everybody wants to be the center of the sandwich, but most of us are just the lubricant, so, and so, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's
what's
just
the meat?
Well, the meat oftentimes...
Is the story or the performance?
To me, for me, the real power of it is the actors and what you see them do. And to watch this cast, not just Bob, but this wonderful group of actors.
Robin, Bruce...
John Turturro, Stanley Tucci, Keener. I mean, everybody delivering like they do. You get to watch things lift in a way that even you didn't imagine. So
you've got all your choices here?
Yes. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. How much of a factor is it people of this quality like the idea of working together? He's on, so Robin said,
I'm sure that's...
They look at a good script, but then they say, it's people by actors I like and Maher want to work with, enjoy working with.
Yeah, definitely.
You also know the scene's going to be better.
Exactly. I'm going to look better. Yeah, in the end, I'm going to be judged by the scene, and the scene will be better if the other person knows what they're doing.
Sure.
For sure.
You know, one of the funny things about, because here's a movie dealing with a producer, and we have the scene in Vanity Fair where there are 30 producers that are going to be for the Vanity Fair photo shoot. So at one point we said, why don't we just get the producers in the business, and we'll just have the producers. It'll be like a real scene. And it became like a nightmare. It was impossible to do because we get phone calls. No, I'd love to do it. Who am I standing next to?
Absolutely.
That's great.
No, absolutely.
You think that would be only the actors, right?
That's right.
Oh, man. You know, I'm afraid vanity in Hollywood extends to almost every participant. You know.
All right, let's see another scene. This is where Stanley Tucci plays Scott sleeping with Kelly, talking about...
He's a screenwriter.
He's a screenwriter. Roll tape.
Remember that florist movie? There's a star attached now, and quite frankly, I would much rather have you produce it than Leonard.
No, who do you think I am? I don't understand. You want to throw this opportunity my way? Why?
Well, the agent thought it would be good business. You know, that you're the guy who could get the money, and you're the right guy to run interference on this one, and frankly, I agree.
Out of the question.
Why?
Why? Well, I believe there's a couple of things that you and I would need to sort out first.
Sure. Like what?
Like you're seeing my ex-wife.
Ben, you've been divorced for 1.5 years.
Doesn't matter.
But you almost married somebody else 6 months ago.
So what? It's not right. It doesn't feel right. It's wrong. I mean, Scott, for God's sakes, you're married.
What difference does that make? I'm not happy. Not happy. Is this a feeling that you're unfamiliar with?
I'm going to have to think about this.
Fine.
By the way, who's the actor in the florist movie?
Brad Pitt.
He's in?
100%.
Brad Pitt is a florist. He'd be good.
Sure would.
Now, just tell me that. But what were you thinking about when you went into that? What did you have to do? The pauses were great. I mean, the whole thing was
again,
real.
It's the timing. Art, right? The timing is very important with that. With the other actors, everybody, just to have, to have that precision in this kind of stuff, and so then it's fun and it works. Hopefully,
I saw somebody here
that
and it's good.
No, that would be good.
That'd be good.
You don't want to go big with that. You don't want to pretend like it's not a big deal. It's like, should I just strip down and say yes to this?
The question of the
I saw
price.
something here that was even funny for me. It's just, there was this thing when he says, "I'm not happy," and you look at him, and you finally, for the first time, you understood him. You went,
This movie opens in theaters on Friday, October 17th. Bob De Niro, Barry Levinson, and Art Linson. Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you here.
An honor.
As always. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you. Bill Maher is here. He is a comedian and the host of Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. His stand-up routines have made fun of religion for years. Now he brings this point of view to the movies. His new film is Religulous. Here is the trailer.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been 40 years since my last confession. We're making a documentary about religion.
Oh, boy.
Why doesn't he just obliterate the devil and therefore get rid of evil in the world?
He will.
He will?
Yeah, it's
What's he waiting for?
I believe that God wants everybody to be free. That's what I believe. And that's part of my foreign policy.
You're a senator. It worries me that people are running my country who believe in a talking snake.
You don't have to pass an IQ test to be in the Senate, though.
So you would agree that even if 1 billion people believe something, it can still be ridiculous?
Absolutely. How we define what is crazy or not crazy about religions is ultimately up to how we define crazy.
You start disputing my God, and you got a problem.
Does that make me crazy?
Isn't that something called a moshoko do mazada?
Does that make me crazy?
I
I'm gonna go in the rapture, and I'm gonna come back on a white horse.
On the second coming of Christ. Yes.
Not just because you share the name Jesus.
No.
Gay Muslim activist, that is a very rare job description. You guys have big ones. If Santa Claus can hit every house in the world on one
I don't
night,
believe in Santa Claus.
Of course not. That's one man flying all around the world and dropping presents out of chimney. One man hearing everybody murmur to him at the same time. That I get.
I'm in the Vatican.
That's the Mormon temple behind me. I think that means some...
No.
No.
Oh. No? No. Yeah. I'm wrong about everything.
Religulous.
God knows what could have been accomplished in this world.
Weren't expecting that.
Is that God?
That's the voice of God.
Is that God, Doc?
Also joining me is the director, Larry Charles. He has produced shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Entourage, and Seinfeld. He also directed the box office smash Borat. I'm pleased to have them both here at this time. So what's this movie about, by the way? I just saw this trailer. How would we define it?
It's like Borat, but I'm in the role of God, you know.
Are you in search of God or in search of why people want God?
Right, that's more. I'm really in search of finding an answer to the question, how can otherwise intelligent people believe in the talking snake, is our shorthand for saying, you know, how can, you know, a nation that's supposed to be a modern industrial nation, a Western democracy, advanced in so many ways, still have 60% of its citizens believe the Noah's Ark story to be literally true.
So people who have faith in some God are by definition, in your judgment?
Well, you know, a personal God, you know, someone who sounds suspiciously like a character that was written in the Bronze Age by people who didn't understand where the sun went at night or what a germ or an atom was. Yes, that
a God described in the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Well, I mean, Thomas Jefferson took the New Testament and threw out all the bells and whistles and the magic tricks and the miracles and just put out the teachings of Jesus Christ. I would subscribe to that in a minute. That's good stuff.
Right.
And truly revolutionary.
But Jesus...
But we don't even know if he existed, you know. And do I believe that God had a son who he sent on a suicide mission, but told them, don't worry, they can't kill you because you're really me? No, I don't believe that.
Or you're going to rise on the third day.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's an old story. That was going around the Mediterranean for 1,000 years before Jesus. We show that in the movie. It just blows people's minds.
Okay, so what did you set out to do here?
Well, first of all, to make a funny movie,
Yeah, exactly.
to make a comedy, and we succeeded. I mean, we now that we've shown it to
as
people...
they say, put some people in the seats.
Well, I really wanted to make a comedy out of this because I'm a comedian, and to me, it's the funniest subject in the world.
Because
it's a talking snake. because there are people like Sarah Palin who think that Jesus gave pony rides on dinosaurs. I mean, you don't have to go that far to find humor here. Man lived inside of a whale. You know, it sort of writes itself.
You don't believe the Jonah story either?
But
not a whale, a big fish.
A big fish is what people tell us. But I also honestly believe that, well, that's what, every time I would confront people about that, they would...
You're such a skeptic.
Yes, I am. And so are you. See, every interviewer comes at me like, you don't believe that? And then when I say, yeah, but do you believe it? Of course they don't believe it
is
either.
that skepticism?
Everyone acts like I'm the only one, but everyone thinks exactly the way I do.
And why
do
is
you
it-
believe a man lived in a whale for 3 days?
course Jonah
Of course,
did.
there we
Of
go.
course.
Why is it skeptical to
Since I was 11
question
years
that,
old.
you know?
So,
yes, sir.
Tell me about the movie. I mean, putting it together, what did you do? Where did you go? What am I going to see?
Well, we had a very audacious concept. We had a very audacious hypothesis, which is to make a Saturday night date movie about religion.
Right.
We wanted people to say, well, I've seen Tropic Thunder and The Dark Knight. What should I do on Saturday night? I want to have a good time.
Right.
We want them to come to see Religulous. You're going to have a great time. It's a rollicking roller coaster ride through religion. And at the same time, we're trying to set a premise here of, here are the origins of these beliefs, and we realize how shaky those origins are. Here's what's the consequences in contemporary society, and here's where it's leading, the ominous road to where it's leading.
No atheist in foxholes.
We don't say we're atheists, because atheist, that term mirrors the certitude that religious people have. We say we don't know.
Right.
And we don't really care. I mean, you're never going to know what happens in the afterworld till you die. and then it might just be like that end of Sopranos, just goes to black. So, just be a good person for the sake of it.
So what do you think happens?
I don't know. I have no clue. And anyone who tells you they have a clue is just crazy, or just putting one over on people. The way they describe the afterworld with such specifics.
This is your mother and your sister talking about the
Yes.
family and the religion in an extraordinary backdrop. Take a look.
It never occurred to me to say, why didn't you go to church?
Mom, what church do we belong to?
I don't remember this ever coming up. Of course you didn't go to church with us.
No.
But
We
I don't-
never had a family discussion
We never
about
had a
it.
family
Never.
discussion about that.
Every family is dysfunctional.
So you thought even this, which wasn't your religion, was
Was-
better than
was-
no religion?
Well, even this only told you good things. I
Well,
thought.
But it's just so shamelessly invented as they go along.
Well, we can say that
Was,
now.
was anyone...
See, that explains everything. I'm not sure that's that funny, but it explains everything to me about
Actually,
why you are the way you are.
Laugh so much
People-
at that.
I can know,
roar at that.
because your mother is funny. That's my
Gave
point.
me
Your mother is funny.
Such a gift, because she not only gets me the first couple of laughs in the movie,
Right.
but she sets up the whole thing. I mean, people, after they watch that scene, which comes very early in the movie, they understand where I'm coming from, who I am. It puts me in a context. Once they hear her say, every family is dysfunctional,
Right.
they're like...
I know.
She's talking
I'm
about
granting you that point, but that was what was interesting about it. I mean, your mother... I understood you from listening to your mother for 30 seconds.
Right.
And that's,
Exactly.
and that's very crucial to, just like in a regular fictional narrative, we want to set Bill up. We want to set the character of Bill up.
Right.
A lot of people only know Bill from Real Time or from Politically Incorrect or his stand-up, but he's a three-dimensional person. We can relate to him now. We know he comes from a family just like ours, a dysfunctional family, and he has the same questions that we do, and that helps us trust him to take us on this journey.
All right, take a look at this. This is another clip here in which you're interviewing Jeremiah Cummings. Who is he?
He is a reverend in Raleigh. Is that where we
I
found
can't remember exactly, but somewhere like
he
that.
used to be in Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. He sang...
But he found a more lucrative gig.
If you don't know me by now. Which I say to him, you must have thought that does seem to have a religious connotation. If you don't know me by now, you could be singing that to the Lord. He was very impressed by that. Not nearly as impressed as he was by himself.
All right, roll tape. Here it is.
This is your only $2,000 suit.
The gentleman who made this suit for me owns a clothing store.
Hey, Mr. K, you in the house?
The prices that I get my clothes for, I'm blessed in that area.
Yes, you are.
I'm more blessed than I've ever been all the days of my life. And the owner is a Muslim, which I came out of Islam.
I know, and I think it's very interesting that you're a Christian now, you were a Muslim, and when you get your clothes, you buy them like a Jew.
Is religion going to play a role in this election?
It's too easy. It's shooting fish in a barrel to get laughs from.
Exactly, I agree.
So it's, people I think are really going to have a good time. The election, I mean, I think the fact that Sarah Palin, somebody who believes in the Bible literally, is in a position to become the second most powerful person in this country is amazingly frightening. And we've had 8 years of a faith-based administration, and look where that got us. And I don't think it's coincidence that we're in the mess we are in. When people who don't believe in rationality get to places of power, they make bad decisions. George Bush did it. There's any number of instances you can name. How many people in that administration were there because they graduated Pat Robertson's law school?
Yeah, but Tony Blair, who has a strong feeling of faith, but he will say, if you believe that I think that somehow I get a message from God about whether I should do this or do that, that's not what I mean.
But he's bright, and George Bush isn't.
And he's also English. He's from Europe, where European countries have much more secularism, and that's one of the issues we discuss in the movie. Is that secularism and that liberalism and that progressive society has now allowed a very intolerant fringe to enter into that society, which are these very fundamentalist Muslims. The most popular baby name in Europe now is Muhammad, and we see this kind of clash of cultures starting to take place in places like Amsterdam and London and those kind of cities.
Tony Blair became a Catholic after he left office.
Exactly. And didn't really talk about the conversion beforehand.
Right. And they asked him, why didn't you talk about it? And he said, well, if I talked about it here, they'd think you were a bit of a nutter, was his quote.
Right. Churches are empty.
It is like
You see,
it is like shooting fish in a barrel.
America, Charlie, does have a progressive European country within it. They're all the people I ever come into contact with, and I travel all over the country.
Social Democrats
but it's not just New York.
Europe?
I go to the red states, and people come to my shows. They're out there. Yeah. There is a progressive country within, but it is being strangled.
And
in the
how
womb.
often have they elected the president of the United States? This progressive wing within.
Well, not at all lately.
Right.
I mean, even Bill Clinton,
I guess, was the... But
he was a Democrat,
he
but
was
he was a
centrist,
centrist, and he was also someone... Everybody since Jimmy Carter has had to toe the line and say they're a person of faith.
And it hasn't changed in this election.
That's correct.
It's just getting worse. I mean, for the Republicans to put up this person, this completely unprepared dope for this very high position in our government is maybe the most cynical thing I've seen in politics ever.
What do you think of Rick Warren?
I think he's an improvement over Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell as far as a guy who's now taken over the leadership of the evangelical movement. He's a guy
Is this
who at
damning
least...
with faint praise?
No, well, I mean, I used to read his book in my act and get huge laughs with it. Purpose-Driven Life. I used to read it in my act, word for word. Screams. It's really a funny book. But at least
25 million copies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And but he walks the walk about being Christian, you know.
He does. And deeds.
About being,
deeds.
I should say Christ-like, and not just Christian. You know, he's poverty. I think he's even on the page with global warming.
He is.
You know, he gets that stuff. You know, I'll take that any day over Pat Robertson.
Yeah, but I mean, Pat Robertson was of a time ago. Pat Robertson's
not that long ago.
Yeah, well, but he's not a factor for...
I think millions of people still listen to him. He was a factor right after 9/11.
Well, he sort of succeeded already.
7 years ago?
Yeah. And he sort of succeeded in his agenda. The moral majority succeeded. They got Reagan into office. They got Bush 1 into office. They got Bush 2 into office. I mean, it started with Jimmy Carter. He was the first person to really introduce Jesus. Yeah, but he introduced Jesus into the campaign. He was a born-again Christian. He was very proud of that. When he lost the election... Yes, lusted in his heart. And when he lost the election, the Republicans realized there was a whole voting bloc that had not been tapped. Thus, the moral majority starts to emerge, and things start to change in this country from that point forward.
Okay, one more clip. Here is Bill in Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, London. Right. Take a look.
Xenu brought us here 75 million years ago, stacked us around volcanoes, and blew them up with an H-bomb. We are older than the universe. You have to rid yourself of the implants from the extraterrestrial dictators. Get an e-meter. Yes, get an e-meter. Audit yourself. How do you people expect to get to the next level? I'm not making the rules.
I probably should make this point. That's where you're explaining Scientology.
Right, and I should give you the context. That's a place called Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, London, and every Sunday people go and they can spiel. They literally bring soapboxes, as I did, and they spiel whatever they spiel.
And they get a crowd or not?
They get a crowd, and I got a big crowd there. Yeah. And I was telling what the tenets of Scientology are, as they really are. I wasn't embellishing them or making them up, just to prove the point that they are the rantings of a nutcase. And Scientology is crazy. I mean, if I went through it for you here, I'd have you on the floor. But it's really not that crazier than Christianity or Islam.
You could have done the Old Testament the same way and picked out stuff that was just as crazy.
That stuff has been around longer, and Scientology is newer, so it seems nuttier. They had to go a little nuttier.
Everything starts as a cult, you know.
Right. It's just a big cult, Christianity.
What's your religious background?
I was raised Jewish.
And?
Well, my parents were very secular. They were the children of immigrants. They wanted to be Americanized. They wanted me to go to Hebrew school, get bar mitzvah, get the money, and get out. you know, and but I was actually very drawn to the metaphysical questions, and of course I couldn't find anybody to answer them or even engage me in it. The rabbis just shut down that discourse. My parents weren't really interested in it, but the questions continued to plague me, and they still plague me today. I think one of the things we're talking about in the movie is there are many important questions to ask today. Who are we? Where are we? Where are we going? Where are we from? But those questions are being thwarted. That inquiry is being thwarted by organized religion rather than encouraged by it.
Okay, one last clip. This is from Francis Collins, one of the people involved in mapping the genome.
Right.
Here it is.
I think this notion that faith is somehow the antithesis of reason is completely wrong.
Explain why.
So faith is, in fact, the most rational of all choices when you sort of look at the spectrum between atheism and belief. Let me tell you why. Imagine this table represents all of the knowledge that ever has existed or will exist in the universe. A lot of stuff.
Right.
And then ask any individual, where in that table is your own personal knowledge right now? And even the most confident of us will draw a tiny little circle. Now, suppose the knowledge of the existence of God is outside your tiny little circle. How then could anybody who's not a wacko say, I know there is no God? Is that not the most irrational position? Does that not require the greatest faith of all? I would argue that already in our little circle, there's evidence of the existence of some supernatural being. The Big Bang, for instance. Did the universe create itself? I don't see how that could happen.
So what did you think of that?
Well, I think that it's interesting that he actually manages to compartmentalize that part of his mind. He's obviously a very, very brilliant man. But he goes to great lengths, great spinning to rationalize his belief system, which on some level is very absurd. In fact, in the movie, in the discussion with Bill, you know, he doesn't come off quite as well, actually.
Well, and he just gets things dead wrong. He says the Gospels were eyewitness accounts.
Right.
Which they, of course, were not. And I say...
They were written some number of years afterwards.
Decades at the very least.
After,
maybe hundreds of years
and he
in
says,
some cases.
I said, well, the nearest one is 40 years after Jesus died. And he goes, well, close.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if something happened today and it wasn't written about for 40 years, would we say that was close to an eyewitness account? I don't think so.
If I was going to make a movie, me.
You wouldn't like it.
No.
It's too hard work. I don't know.
Well, no, I tell you what I would do, though.
You mean Charlie Rose the movie?
Charlie Rose the movie.
We should talk about that later.
I would say find somebody who made Borat, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Seinfeld. That's who I want to partner with right there. You're not a dummy.
I was so stupid. For the longest time, I was looking for a documentary director to do this movie.
Yes.
And documentaries are so dark and despondent.
Yeah,
and
so said, find me a comedic writer and director, and I've got it made.
Get Larry Charles, duh.
Yeah. And so did he call you and say...
He called me, and we had traveled in the same circles for like 25 years, but never met each other. And as soon as we met, it was like we'd been friends all our lives. We immediately started riffing together, and we knew this collaboration could produce something great, yes.
Yeah.
And we agreed on religion.
Right.
I mean, that was
Right.
I mean, we couldn't have really done this if we had differing views.
Right.
And I don't think we ever really had any space between what we believed.
Right.
We're a nation of worshipers.
A world of worshipers, not just America. I mean, Europe is an older, more sophisticated culture, and they've gotten over it, and we haven't. We're younger, I think, and Islam is even younger.
Will do it.
Right. At least we're at the phase where we're phony about really believing. You know, we don't really do what the Bible says. But
so there's a real difference in that European attitude about religion and the American attitude, other than the sort of secularism that's there.
Well, I would put it on a scale. Yes, the Muslims really believe it. You know. Our Bible says homosexuality, well, we should put them to death, but nobody takes it seriously, nobody does it. The Muslims will really do it in Chop Chop Square in Mecca. And the Europeans, they don't even go to church, believe it. I mean, even in Italy, which is, you know, where the Pope lives, over 50% of the people say they're atheist. And in most European countries, it's a higher percentage than that. England, 80% and so forth. So they have chucked it out the window. And by the way, did not collapse. Right. Their civilization did not collapse without it.
But let's not forget there are a lot of customers out there, and Islam and Christianity are like Avis and Hertz or like Pepsi and Coke, and they're going to go out. They want to get new customers. In the third world, South America, Africa, those are places where there are new customers, and they're going out there, you know, trying to convert people.
We will probably see a black pope in our life because that is where the new people are.
Well, he's on the great mentions list.
Right.
Yes.
Already.
Yes.
But that is, they have to find people who are not onto them. which means people who up till now have been worshiping dirt and living in a rolled-up ball.
Don't get a chance to see our movie.
I mean, this, in the end, I think it was Larry David who said about you, I read this quote, said, I don't think he likes to be ordinary. I think Larry will be remembered as one of our great satirists. That's the field he toils in, creating satire for the masses.
Well, I'm very humbled by that. Larry is my mentor. He's been like an older brother to me. He may very well be the most important, influential person in my adult life. So everything I've learned, I've kind of learned from him, really. So that's a very sweet thing to say.
Well, what have you learned from him?
Well, he is another person. He's a savant. And so is Bob. I mean, they have to do what they do. They don't have any choice. They can't make adjustments. This is what they do. This is their vision. If you accept it, great. If you don't accept it, it's not going to change. This is what they do. If they're sitting on a bench, bus stop, they'll be saying the same things as they will on stage. So that is who they are. They're very true to themselves. They completely trust their instincts. And that's how Bill is, too. Bill trusts his instincts. He's willing to even alienate people that like him in order to speak the truth. And there's just very few people out there who have that kind of vision.
I think of him as godlike.
Yes, I do, too, obviously.
See how easy it is to become a god. I mean, you'd really just have to show up.
I'm like your John the Baptist. Let me go out there and work it. Yeah, I'll work it for you.
Watch your head.
Yeah.
All right. Religulous.
That's not your fault. We made up that word, and it is hard to say.
But you said it well the first time.
Yes,
actually,
It's like you're saying religion, and then you go to ridiculous. Just like religion.
Anyway, thought about this
and
before.
That's the bottom line, by the way. It is funny. If you're really looking for a fun time, believe it or not, this is a great movie to go see. It's about religion, but it's a great, great fun time.
I also think it will send a message. If this movie does well the first weekend, I think it will send a message that there is this nation within a nation, and we need to be reckoned with a little bit.
Yeah.
There's 435 members of Congress. Not one of them would ever say that they're an atheist or an agnostic, and 16% of the country says they are. So we don't really have true diversity in Congress. That's fake diversity. Oh, we have a black and a Latino and a woman. Yeah, but they all think alike.
Right.
How about thought diversity?
Okay, when you were making this, did anybody get angry at you? And
everybody got Are you kidding?
No
we got thrown out of literally every place we went. The Vatican and Salt Lake City Temple.
And what would they say to you?
Get away! Get out!
Get out, or we'll shoot you.
God will get you.
We'll shoot you. Yeah.
God will get you.
Yes,
well, you know, they always pull
cursed.
out, what if you're wrong?
Yeah.
You know, Jesus said that to me. What if you're wrong?
What if you're wrong? And then Bill asked him, what if he's wrong? And that threw everybody in for a loop.
I'll apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.